When Rebecca and Daniel bought the old Victorian house in upstate New York, they considered it a dream come true. The price was surprisingly low, and the interior retained its 19th century charm. The only odd detail was the dozen antique clocks lining the walls of the hallway. All beautiful, all dead silent. Daniel, fascinated, tried to fix one of them. The moment he wound the gears, a deafening tick echoed through the house, and then stopped. That night, they heard faint ticking sounds in different rooms, even though the clocks remained unmoving. Soon after, Rebecca began sleepwalking, always stopping before a different clock. Her eyes were wide open, but she seemed completely unaware. Daniel recorded one of these episodes and upon replay, heard a voice whispering names, none of which they recognized. One evening, one of the clocks started ticking on its own, then another, and another. All 12 began ticking in perfect unison until the hands pointed to midnight. That's when the basement door slowly creaked open, revealing stairs that hadn't been there before. Daniel descended with a flashlight. Rebecca followed. At the bottom, they found a room filled with portraits, dozens of couples all staring with hollow eyes. In the center was a clock with no hands and a note. Time is borrowed. Now it belongs to us. When a neighbor came to visit days later, the house was empty, except for two new portraits on the basement wall of Rebecca and Daniel. Sarah and James were driving through the Nevada desert when their car broke down just past midnight. With no cell signal and no towns nearby, they spotted a flickering neon sign, Luna Vista Motel. It looked abandoned, but they had no choice. The front desk was empty, yet a room key with the number 3 lay on the counter. The room was dusty but intact. Tired, they decided to rest until morning. At 2:13 a.m., Sarah awoke to the sound of footsteps above them. But the motel had only one floor. James checked outside. Nothing. No cars, no people. Just the dead silence of the desert. When he returned, Sarah was standing by the mirror whispering to herself. But her reflection wasn't moving. Panicked, James turned her away from the glass. The moment he did, the light bulb exploded, plunging the room into darkness. They rushed out only to see that the motel sign now read, Luna Visita, with an extra I glowing red. The front lobby was gone. In its place stood an open doorway leading into a pitch-black corridor lined with identical room doors. Sarah swore she saw her grandmother's face at the end of the hall, motioning silently. They turned and ran toward their car, but the desert had vanished. They were surrounded by endless motel hallways in all directions. Later, a local gas station worker told a reporter he'd seen the couple enter the old ruins of Luna Vista, which had been abandoned since a fire in 1987. They were never found. Karen and Lewis were sorting through old belongings in her grandmother's attic in Pennsylvania when they discovered a rotary telephone wrapped in velvet. It had no cord, no dial tone, but it was beautiful in an eerie way. They brought it home as decoration. That night it rang. Startled, Karen answered. Static. Then a voice, faint, male, whispering her name like he knew her. She assumed it was a prank. The phone rang again the next night. This time Lewis answered. His expression turned blank, and he didn't speak. When Karen grabbed the receiver, it had gone cold, unnaturally cold. The next calls were worse. Sometimes Karen would hear crying, Other times, someone breathing heavily and saying, "I'm closer than you think." Karen traced the phone's origin and discovered it had belonged to a couple who died in a murder-suicide in 1962. The husband was accused of calling his wife every night from a neighbor's house, long after he'd died. One evening, Lewis vanished. Karen found the receiver off the hook and the words "answer him" scratched into the wallpaper. She answered. The voice said, "We'll be together soon. Time's just an illusion." Neighbors later claimed they saw Karen talking to no one, pacing with the dead phone in hand. She was never seen again. When Alicia and David bought a set of antique furniture at a Rhode Island estate sale, they didn't expect the full-length, golden-framed mirror to be the most captivating piece. It was tall, beautifully tarnished, and seemingly centuries old. On the first night, Alicia noticed her reflection lingered for a split second after she'd moved. David laughed it off, until he saw the same. Then things escalated. In the mirror, Alicia sometimes saw herself standing in different clothes or with a shadowy figure behind her. David claimed he once saw their bedroom burning in the reflection while everything around them remained untouched. They tried to cover it, but the sheet would always fall. One night, the mirror was completely black and their reflections were missing. Alicia dreamt of being inside the mirror, banging to get out while her double watched coldly from the outside. She woke up with bruises on her arms, finger marks. They decided to sell the mirror, but when the buyer arrived, the mirror showed 2 empty chairs in a room of fire. The buyer left, terrified. Later that evening, neighbors reported hearing glass shatter. But when they checked, the mirror was intact, except Alicia and David were gone. Only their clothes remained on the floor. And the mirror? It now showed them standing inside, motionless, staring out forever. Emily and Tom rented a cabin near a secluded lake in Oregon to celebrate their anniversary. The surroundings were serene, almost magical, until the third night. A soft mist rolled in, and they heard whispers coming from the woods. Tom thought it was the wind, but Emily insisted the voice was calling her name. They followed the sound to the lake's edge. A rowboat was tied to a tree stump, bobbing gently. On a dare, they took it out onto the fog-covered lake. Halfway across, the mist thickened. The stars disappeared. The lake grew unnaturally silent. Then from the water below, a pale hand brushed against the boat. They froze. A voice, not either of theirs, spoke softly. "You've returned to me." In the water, a shadowy face emerged, resembling Emily's, older, tired, and sad. They rowed back in a panic, but the shore was gone. Only endless fog remained. Eventually, the boat bumped into a dock, but it wasn't the one they came from. The cabin was there, but it was decayed, abandoned. A sign on the door read, "Closed since 1975, drowning incident." They looked back. The lake was calm, but their reflections were missing.